Thanks for staying with us. Now, civil society has been given no other option than to rely on the courts and civil mobilisation to realise its constitutional rights and reform the electoral system. Chairperson of the One South Africa movement, Dr. Michael Louis, says that the approval of the Electoral Amendment Bill is yet another constitutional crisis in the making. He joins us now to unpack this further. Thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. Perhaps tell us why you think this is a constitutional crisis.
Well, good evening, Heidi. Yes, well, definitely. In the sense is that, as you know, that the deadline that was set by the Constitutional Court is 10 December. And we're now sitting in the middle of October, and we still haven't really even arrived at the Assembly. And then it has to still go to the National Council of Provinces to be debated. And then there still has to be public participation and still to be signed by the President. But what has happened, Heidi, is that civil society is really looking not to litigate this whole matter, because what will happen is the deadline is the 10th of December. So we as civil society can only go to the courts or serve papers for a declaratory order of invalidity on the 11th of December, one day after the President is supposed to have signed. And as you know, December and January, nothing happens really in the legal fraternity, and then there has to be replying papers. So we don't believe that this court case will actually happen before June, July 2023. And then judgment takes about 2 months from the Constitutional Court, which takes us to about September, August, which gives the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission, says they need 18 months to prepare for elections. And elections are supposed to take place in March 2024. So we are really very worried, and we believe it is a constitutional crisis.
I want to ask you about the President's role in all of this, and I ask you because the ANC has come out rejecting the Electoral Amendment Bill in its current form. And considering that this has now been taken to Parliament, what role do you think the President has in all of this? And do you think he has the power to sway this, given the fact that civil society has rejected this bill?
Well, Heidi, it's actually very interesting you asked me that question, because one of the great privileges of the South African society is the separation of powers. That is, the judiciary separate from the executive, separate from the legislative arm. And we've always relied on that, and we still believe as civil society that that separation of powers exists. And the minister has tried to keep out of the legislative process going through Parliament, but your information that has come out today is very, very interesting to us, because yesterday at the Ahmed Castrada lecture that Vali Musa spoke at, and as you know, he was chair of the advisory commission, or the advisory report to the minister, a veteran of the ANC, Mr. Suki Zakanyala, actually went and addressed the audience to say that the minister sort of cornered him and said, please go and represent us at this lecture, and say that the ANC at the moment does not support the bill as it stands going to the Assembly, and they are wanting to engage civil society. Well, to be honest, I think I nearly gave a standing ovation. I was so excited, because civil society has been trying for the last 6 months to address the Standing Committee and the Minister. Unfortunately, Heidi, it's come to our notice today that the Minister of Home Affairs has now refuted to say that he did not mandate Mrs. Zekalaya to represent him, and that the ANC still supports the electoral bill as it stands to Parliament, and that he's not willing to engage with civil society. So that's the first response I want to give you. The second response to the President's role, once again, we do believe that, and we do trust that the President has got a role, and that we will be petitioning him, and that he's not involved. And even although the executive is involved and he leads the executive, meaning the cabinet, we do not believe as civil society that the executive did go and peruse this bill and contemplate the facts in front of them. And as a result, we believe that the executive only sent the ministerial advisory report to Parliament for Parliament to consider the minority or the majority report, and that the president wasn't involved with that.
Yes, I want to ask you one last question, Doctor. What is the way forward now? Because in the first answer that you gave me, you gave us some time frames, and there isn't much time, given this is heading to Parliament in a possible decision by mid-December. So what is the option here, given the unhappiness around this amended electoral bill?
Well, there's only two options. The first option, which is the preferred option, and I can definitely state that as civil society, litigation is our last option. But if the bill goes through as it is, we will definitely litigate. But we are seeking Parliament, and I'll be writing a letter to the Minister tomorrow, once again, seeking mediation. Once again, it's not the first time that we're seeking mediation, to please sit with civil society and come with an interim compromise whereby civil society says, even although we do not believe the bill is ready as it is and perfect, we want a sunset clause that a perfect electoral system will be there after 2029, but we're prepared to consider an interim system, and we're prepared to sit with Parliament and the Minister of how that system looks like. Otherwise, the more drastic approach from civil society is to approach the courts for a declaratory order of invalidity, and then ask the Constitutional Court of a writing-in clause to write in how the 2024 elections will be run.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting times. We'll just have to wait and see what comes out of this. But it is rather interesting that the ANC has come out saying it rejects this bill, because previously we understand that they were in acceptance of the amended electoral bill. But we'll just have to wait and see, and we'll keep tabs with you to see what your plan of action is. Thank you so much for your time. That was Chairperson of the One South Africa Movement, Dr. Michael Louis.